Hi, I am Nicky Clements, and I used to make stuff like this. If you saw my last video, there was a bit where I put my hand through a solid wooden table and then pulled some stuff out. So this week I figured I'd do a quick tutorial on how I pulled off that shot. As I'm sure you can guess, this segment was green screened. I just bought a few sheets of green poster board from the dollar store and taped them together, and then I put them on the table that I was going to be compositing my shot onto. It's always a great idea if you can record your green screen footage in the same place as the footage that you're going to be compositing your shot onto, assuming you're compositing into real recorded footage. That way the lighting will be the same and it'll just make the shot that much more convincing. Now, instead of just waving my hands over top of the green screen and then having to manually animate some sort of mask to make it look like my hand is actually going into something, I actually got a basket while I was at the dollar store, a green one as well, and then I picked up some green tissue paper. And then I just put the tissue paper over the basket, and then this gave me something that I could actually break through and put my hands down in. And then that way all of the effect was pretty much done via the green screen. So when I keyed out the green screen and put it on the table, that was pretty much the shot. It was almost good right away. To perform the Chroma Key, I used Key Light in Adobe AfterEffects, which is a fantastic keyer, and it comes with AfterEffects. So I just applied Key Light to my clip, and with even just the default settings, I was already getting an excellent key, and it was already looking super cool. And with just a few minor adjustments, I got my key dialed in really nicely, and the effect was basically done, except it was looking pretty flat. So to try and better match it to the footage where my hand was actually over the table, I saw that there was some drop shadow, so I added a bit of that in, and then two, that there was actually some reflection. So I just copied the green screen layer of my hands and put it below, stretched it, offset it a bit, and then dropped the opacity way down. And then that gave me that reflection and made this effect really convincing. And now for where my fingers actually were going into the table, the effect was still falling just a little bit flat. So I went ahead and I put a bulge effect onto the table layer, and that allowed me to warp the table layer a bit so it was moving as my hands were going into it. And I think that warping really finished off this effect. Now for the final video, I applied the Vhs Filter, which I use quite a bit. It's a great plugin from Red Giant, and there's a huge range of looks that you can get from the plugin. For the most part, I've just stuck with the default settings because that's pretty much what I'm looking for, and it's super easy. And I was matching a video back from the 90s, so that effect made perfect sense. And while it did hide the fact that this was a green screen effect even more, I think the unaffected, full, clean HD version still looks really good. On a serious note, if you live in the United States, tomorrow is a very important day. Tuesday, November 6th is our midterm election, and if you are able, I strongly urge you to go out and vote. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably stray away from politics quite a bit and probably don't even keep up on current events all that much. I get most of my news from Daily Show clips on YouTube, so I only have a vague idea of what's going on for this election, and hardly have any idea who are the people in my own district that I should be voting for. So for a majority of the items that I'm not that well versed on, instead of just voting for what name looks cool or voting strictly party-based, or worse, not voting at all, I went ahead and found a sample ballot for my district. So I can take this to someone who might be more versed on the issues and whose opinion I value and get their input and see which way they're leaning. And then I can at least have some frame of reference for how I might want to be voting, and I'm not going into the polls blind. So I highly suggest you do this as well. I'll leave a link to where I found my sample ballot. Hopefully you can find yours there. Whatever you do, please go out and vote. There are some very big issues being voted on in every single state, and your vote counts. And if I'm urging you to do this, it's probably a big deal. But to finish things off, again, I was super pleased with how this effect came out, especially for how simple it was to pull off. And now you know how to stick your hand into anything you want. Wait. My sincere thank you for watching once again. I am Nick D. Clements. If you're wondering, Nick is short for Nicholas, and the D stands for Daryl. Anyway, I'm off to make something else. The D stands for Daryl. Daryl. Can I do one where I don't say Daryl like an insensitive jerk?